Hey guys, what's up? It's once again mp4podcast.com, and I want to talk about the iPad with Retina display. I'll refer to this iPad as the iPad 4. The new iPad, which is the third, I'll be referring to the new iPad as iPad 3, and iPad 2 will be iPad 2, and iPad 1 will be iPad 1. Now, why is Apple releasing a new iPad 6 months from the release of the third iPad? Well, they want to get all the ports. We know about the ports that are on the iPhone 4, the new power port, connection dock. That new port is on the, like I said, on the iPhone 5. It's on the new iPod Touch 5th generation, and they want to get the iPad using the new port as well. So they want to get rid of all the old ports. Okay, that's one reason. Two, it's a good time to do it because it is coming up in the holiday season. And, a lot of people right now, they know that there's going to be probably going to be a new iPad. They're thinking, well, it's springtime, I'll wait for the new iPad. Probably some people that are on the iPad 2 we're probably thinking about holding off until springtime, and that's why Apple actually did a little upgrading on this iPad, where they put in an A6 processor. The FaceTime camera is HD 720p, so they did a little upgrading here and there. It's not a lot to be a deal breaker if you have an iPad 3. However, that little extra processing power will come into hand. Especially if you're a gamer, maybe in another year or two. I wouldn't say another year, probably say 2 years. I have an all these iDevices, iPod Touch 4th generation, and it lasted pretty good for 2 years. If you have an iPad 3, it'll probably be lasting for about another year and a half until it runs all the games that are really being released. And then you're going to start to see a little slowdown with some games not being supported by it. However, I will say this: the iPad 2 is still kicking ass, playing games and doing a lot of the everything that it has to do. If people remember Nova 3, Nova 3 was actually doing some graphics on the iPad 2 that the iPad 3 couldn't do because the A5 processor wasn't strong enough to run at that resolution, the Retina display, and then do some special effects. So even though the iPad 2 had a slower chip in there, since the resolution was a lot smaller, it didn't need to work that hard to get some of those special effects out. There was some lighting effects and some blur effects that were in Nova 3. Now, if you do have a new iPad and you download Nova 3, there's an option to run the game at a lower resolution, so the new iPad can get those special effects. Now, with the iPad 4, the Retina display one, which they're calling it, has the A6 processor, so you can probably run it at the highest resolution, and then also run those special effects. Now, will there be an iPad 5 this spring? I'm guessing maybe not. It seems a little up in the air if Apple will do this. Now, what will the iPad 5 be? Well, maybe we're going to see a widescreen display. Now, I will say this. I actually like the display. Now, the display that we have right now on the iPad is a 4x3 display, I believe. And the iPod Touch, the older versions and the older iPhones are 4x3. It doesn't really bother me unless you're maybe watching a movie with, the black bars bother you. But I like the 4x3 ratio, especially for reading books and browsing. Now, I did hold an Asus Prime, I think, Prime tablet, and it felt a little too long, especially when putting my hands around it. Maybe like a really long steering wheel kind of, and that felt a little awkward. It felt a little harder to get your fingers around it for certain types of games. But, that's probably me. Maybe they'll redesign the button layouts, because they have done that in the past, where games on the iPad were really bad. The controls were really bad because what they were doing, they were upscaling the iPhone versions, just blowing the picture up, and they didn't replace the D-pads, replace the buttons, resize them. But now they're doing that, and they're gaming on the iPad, the new iPad, or any of the bigger ones. It's not really that big of an issue as it used to be. The other thing, maybe Apple is going to release the iPad 5 next year in the spring, and maybe they just want to have all their products during the Christmas season. However, that could be a little bit of a bad choice, maybe, because some people won't have enough money to buy an iPhone and an iPad. It's like they're hitting you at one time. So if they release an iPad in the spring, you save up some money, whatever. Maybe you sell off your old one, put a few bucks in to the new one, and you get your upgrade. And then 6 months later, you get ready to buy your phone. So it gives you a little break to get ready to upgrade your products. But then again, who knows? They may be getting ready for the Christmas season. Now, we have seen if we study the iPhone 4 release and how Apple changed the release dates for the iPhone 4, all the iPhones used to be released in the very early of the summer, like in June. And then what happened? Verizon got the iPhone 4, and that iPhone 4 got released in February. Now, Apple didn't want to piss off the Verizon customers, and Verizon didn't want to piss off their own customers by releasing a new iPhone, which was the new one was coming, the 4S, in June. And people are like, why did I get the 4? I should have just waited a little while. So what they did was they pushed the iPhone 4S release pushed it back to the fall. I think it came out in October. I could be wrong about that. And now all the iPhones are being released around September, October. Maybe they're moving it right around that window. I think right now they're always shooting for September. But who knows? Maybe the new iPads will be released in the fall now. I will say this, though. If you have the iPad 3, it's not really that big of a deal. I probably wouldn't even sell mine. It's not worth the hassle for me. If you have an iPad 2, I really wouldn't even bother with it too much. I wouldn't worry about it that much. I would just hold off for the iPad 5 if it gets released in the fall, or the spring, or then the fall. Just wait for the next model. If you don't have an iPad, then this is a good time to get one. You do get the A6 processor. You're gonna get the new port, but the one thing I'm thinking about this, like I said, this new iPad. What do we want out of it, really? What are they gonna redesign besides putting an extra bigger chip in there? We have 1080p. I don't know. Maybe it can record even higher resolution. But do you really want a 16:9 display for reading websites and browsing, or reading books and when you flip the tablet around? I would probably prefer to keep the 4:3 for reading websites and so on. So once again, guys, this is mp4podcast.com, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. Love to have you as a subscriber, and let me know your thoughts below. Take care, guys. Later, guys. Bye.